Hello and welcome back to REV Endurance Sports, and today we're going to do a bike profile on this lovely Ritchey Breakaway with a Campagnolo Super Record group set and some custom HED DT Swiss wheels. So let's get into this. And if you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to do that. A lot of folks watch these videos, 70-something% are not subscribed. So please subscribe. All right, so you got the headline. It was a Ritchey Breakaway, and we've got a Campagnolo Super Record on here, and then we got a couple of other little nice things, so we're gonna walk through them. Right, so if we start off on the front end here, these are the Super Record shifters. And this is a 12-speed group set, in case I did not mention that just yet. 12-speed group set. We've got a SuperLogic, a Ritchey SuperLogic handlebar in a 42 centimeter. So the gentleman is not on board with the super narrow handlebars. This is a bike built for comfort. So 42 centimeter handlebars. We've got a 90 millimeter stem, and then we've got the up angle on it. So we've got it set up like that because that's how you have to cut the cables. Then you can always flip the stem. You can always do all kinds of stuff, but you first have to have enough cable. And so you build a bike with the stem in the up position. Of course, the REV patented top-down wrap. Notice how smooth and clean, no finishing tape, just a very nice, clean look, and it just really presents well. We've also got some eeBrakes, and the wonderful thing about eeBrakes is the tire capacity. If you see here, this is a 30 tire, a Continental 5000 clincher tire, and look at all this space that's in here. All right, this is a 30 tire, and right now, if we wanted to, we could put a 32 tire with plenty of space there. As I mentioned, this is a Continental 5000 standard clincher tire, but what we have is the Pirelli tubes, TPU tubes. Now, the thing is, with a lot of TPU tubes, you have to really check the packaging because not all TPU tubes can be used with rim brakes. So you have to make sure that you have a TPU tube that is compatible with rim brakes. Obviously, more heat is generated at the brake track on a rim brake type of braking platform as opposed to when you're running a disc brake wheel. Right. These are the HED Belgium rims, and they are built with Sapim CX-ray spokes on a DT Swiss 240 hub set. Now, this is, you can beat the heck out of this wheel, and it will last. It will last a very long time. Here's the other thing. With the HED Belgium rim, when it's bought in the aftermarket to do these types of custom builds, you get a 24-28 wheel build. Now, as you can see, we built the wheel in a radial spoke pattern because it's just pretty and it looks really nice. The rear, is a cross pattern. All right. One thing that some folks might have never noticed before is that the tubing on the Breakaway is a little bit bigger than the standard non-Breakaway Road Logics. So you have a bigger tube here, and then you have your clamp down here. And so you just need a little bit of additional stiffness when you do a breakaway And so you have this tubing that's just a little bit bigger. You've got the clamp there, and then the other very discreet looking breakaway part is going to be here in the seat post cluster. Because this is a breakaway, you have to do the splitters. So there's one there. That's for the rear brake. And then these are the ones for the derailleurs. You can see them there. That's the front derailleur and rear derailleur. Super Record crankset. Now the gentleman wanted a 165 crankset. Unfortunately, you couldn't get the 165 crankset in the Super Record 12-speed. They only made a small batch in like the wireless group set. But this was a prettier one anyway. And the logos match. So it's a much better setup to go this route than to have tried to get the 165 in the WRL group set. All right, so now we have the Campagnolo 12-speed Super Record front derailleur. We obviously have the chain. Now the chain, thank goodness, is just your standard link chain for a quick disconnect now, instead of that silly pinning stuff. And this is what I'm talking about, just a regular standard quick disconnect. And you don't have that other nonsense where you had to, I don't know why Campagnolo did that. All right, this is your Super Record rear derailleur, and we've got it paired with an 1132 cassette. Oh, sorry, I did not mention, this is a 5236 chainring with an 1132. Now the gentleman said, you know, we ride the same roads, so you know what type of hills we have, just set my bike up pretty much like yours. So I do ride a 5236 on quite a few bikes now, and then I run either an 1132, or when Jess and I were doing our credit card touring, we put an 1134 on because we had, 15 to 20 extra pounds of gear on our bikes. Now, one thing I always try to talk about is the things that I do for attention to detail. So, I try to always cut the cables and housing so that, like, if you see here, there's the Campagnolo logo, right? I try to do that in most areas that I can. And it should be common sense, but maybe it's not. You need two sets of cables when you do a breakaway. So you have the standard cable, or I should say the cable running the standard direction from the shifter to here. Then you cut that cable, and then you have to use another cable with the cable head inside this splitter, and then it runs back to here and gets anchored, and then you do your adjusting. So if you ever need to replace a cable, you're actually replacing two cables. Now these pedals are on here, they're just on there so I can test ride the bike. I do not have a pedal spec for the gentleman, and he has his own saddle. So this XQ Lab saddle is just on here so I can test ride the bike. We went with a ergon seat post, and basically he saw the way my breakaway was set up, and he says, you know what, I think I want one of those ergon seat posts as well. So that's what we have here. It's kind of very similar to a Canyon seat post that folks talk about, but because they're both German companies, I strongly believe that ergon makes the seat post for Canyon. And then this is the clearance now for the rear tire in the brake caliper. And so there's plenty of space there. And then also, if you're curious, there's plenty of space here to run a 32 tire inside of this chain stays. Now, here's the thing. They rate the bike for 30 tires. So just to keep yourself safe and not have any issues, just run a 30 tire. It's more than comfortable enough with a 30 tire. I think the reason people want bigger and bigger and bigger tires is because they're riding very stiff carbon bikes. They're riding bikes that are made for pros, and they're 60-year-old men or women who are now riding a pro cyclist bike for a 23-year-old that's been stiffer, lighter, and the ride quality is completely gone. And so you're seeking for 32, 34 millimeter tire clearance, but it's not necessary on a beautifully designed, a well-designed steel bike. So that's pretty much the headline, and you know, there's some little stuff along the way. For example, you know, here we go again with the way I cut the housing so that you can perfectly see Campagnolo. And then here, this is probably the nicest thing Campagnolo makes, and that is this front derailleur adjuster. And let me see if I can get that to focus right there. This is probably the best thing that they make. It's just a very nice, it's indexed. Sorry, if I move my hand, you can't see. But underneath, like where my ring finger is, you see how that's got a place so you can grip it, and then it's got some lines here, and then it's indexed. So you turn it, and you can adjust your front derailleur very, very nicely with this. And honestly, this is probably the best thing Campagnolo makes. So it's wonderful that we have that on there. And let's see what else we got. What else we got? Yeah, that's about it. That is really just about it. So we're looking forward to letting the customer know that finally, and the pacing item for the longest time, we had to wait on some Super Record derailleurs, but we had to wait on this handlebar for months. But it finally came in, and then I had to recable the whole bike because I had done a kind of a mock-up build initially, just so I could get the chain, so I can keep working on the bike, but I couldn't do the full build because I didn't want to go through, I don't think I mentioned this. I had another handlebar on here, and the other handlebar was just so I could get the cables and some of the stuff situated until the real handlebar came in. So I'm sorry, I assumed that you knew that, but you didn't. So that's what I mean. I couldn't finish the job until I got the real handlebar that came in. All right, well, that is all for today. If you'd like for me to build you a Ritchey, then all you have to do is send me an email at revcycling@gmail.com. It's right in the description. If there's anything else on this bike that you like, any of the componentry, any of the wheels, or anything like that, just contact me. I am a dealer for everything pretty much that I sell in my store. And I had a conversation with someone earlier today, and I said to them, you know, I ride what I sell and I sell what I ride. That's been my mantra. Now, I opened my own business in 2013, but that's basically been my mantra since I entered the bike business in 2003. I never talked to a customer about something I personally wouldn't ride myself. I wouldn't promote anything. And if a customer ever asked me, what do you ride? I would tell them, this is what I ride. And then, you know, that's how I would sell tires and pedals and handlebars and bikes. So it was basically anything that I felt confident in, then I felt very confident in giving them a recommendation on that product or thing. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you up the road.